Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening. The Indians, whether this is government or the common people or even the media, they're quite happy that Indian economy is on the off day. It's having an upside. That's quite good. It is. But then we are like ostriches. We hide our heads in sand. We are like a pigeon that sees a cat and then closes its eyes. And that's what the Indians are doing, especially the government. And I fail to understand why the industry, the government, the media at least should be open. But media is more open about things which are not at all relevant. And there's a lurking danger of the trade challenges. And India is facing a huge trade challenge. Globally, the demand is weakening. Now, in this connection, I was quite intrigued by a comment made by Mr. Singh Jaspal of Mississauga on my post that the people will buy, but they are more choosy. Agreed. And he further went on to say that maybe the quality of Indian product wouldn't be able to face the challenges and the price. Very pertinent point. But then my contention is that this adds to the problem. As the demand weakens, supply is more, so people will become still more choosy, apart from the political situations. UK has not signed FTA with the government of India till now. And again, Indians are enthusiastic that Rishi Sunak has come, little thinking that he is the Prime Minister of England and his first job is to England, not to India. Now, what the challenges are, let me tell you. And I think the government is aware of it. I had a talk with some senior bureaucrats, and they agreed that they have submitted the papers to the ministers, and then, as I have the ministers, they dare not discuss the matter with the Prime Minister. Now, Indian industries face a growing challenge, and this would be visible at the end of the fiscal year. The fiscal year ends on 31st of March 2023 for India. Canadian closes on the 1st of December. But Indian fiscal year is from 1st of April to 31st of March. And the challenges are continuing. And the challenges are for the goods combined with the rupee plunge. So there are three factors basically. One raised by Mr. Singh Jaspal, the quality of the product. Indian products, some are excellent. But the consumer goods and the consumer durables and the integrity of the Indian supplier is always in doubt. They'll send one sample, and when the product is there, they'll send another sample. And the pricing, they're much higher. Anyway, the first challenge which I envisage is the fiscal H1 trade deficit. Fiscal trade deficit has doubled this year, and by this year I mean the financial year, which is still half, 4 months or more. And today it is $148.5 billion. Now, $148.5 billion trade deficit. Does anybody in his senses believe that in the 4 months you will be able to recoup the deficit? What to say of having a surplus? So the surplus would remain. Second point. September fertilizer imports were increased by 48% and coal imports were up by 61%. Coal is extremely important because the Indian thermal plants still are depending on coal, and the coal comes from Indonesia and from New Zealand mostly. and it's up by 48%. And then, sorry, it's up by 61%. And the fertilizer imports are again up 48%. And whole agrarian economy, 70% of the Indian economy is agrarian economy depending on fertilizers. Coupled with this is a situation which makes it worse. Rupee has traded above rupees 80 per dollar. So the trading is 82, 83, fluctuating, maybe it goes up to 84. And I was amazed at the inane, absolutely unsuitable remark for Sita Raman to make. She said, well, rupee is not going down, dollar is going up. She forgets the result is the same. If the dollar goes up and the rupee doesn't go up, that means rupee is going down. So when the imports are going up and the cost of the import is going up, is it doubling? If the cost don't go up, it was the same exchange rate, then still the price will be more, but now it's much more. And then the trade deficit already there, 148.5 billion. So trade deficit, instead of decreasing, is likely to increase. What action has the finance ministry taken till in this regard? Nothing. Zilch, nazar, zero. Then look at the geopolitical situation. Unless it improves, the war improves, it is likely to be a major issue for India. Are you aware that if you look at the September 22 trade data, I'm not going in October was worse, but that data is still not available. And that data of September shows that the exports are growing at a single-digit pace for the third consecutive month. That means July, August, September, 3 months, the increase in exports is just single-digit. Do you mean to say, with a single-digit increase in exports, you can make a name in the international global market, and your trade, which is having a deficit of 148.5 billion, will even balance itself? If you think so, then you are living in a la-la land. Next comes another issue. Key sectors like engineering goods, ready-made garments, plastics, linoleum, they have reported year-on-year decline in exports because USA and EU, the demand has slowed down across major markets. Not that it has finished. Now here comes the comment of Mr. Singh Jaspal. But the cheapest products are available. For example, I remember that a leather glove manufacturer asked me to help him. I said, what's the price? He quoted $1 per pair. And the same pair was being sold by Vietnam, bit better quality, at 30 cents per pair. Now, which importer would purchase from India? So now is engineering goods, ready-made garments, plastic and aluminum. They are being grabbed by the other countries. Bangladesh exports are increasing a lot. So are Vietnam, so are Philippines. Now, slowdown in the exports is a reflection on the toughening conditions as well as the pricing. Now, the global trade is facing a demand slowdown on account of high inventories, rising inflation, economies entering recession, high volatility in currencies, and geopolitical tensions. You know, for example, the prices have gone up by 26%. But the people have the same income. So the real income has fallen. And the people will spend more on the necessities than on the comforts and the luxuries. And there is a fear of recession. So high volatility in the prices of the dollar and the rupee. So volatility in the currencies, the fear of the Third World War, rising inflation, and the wholesalers and then importers have huge inventories, so they say, no, we will not buy further. Then the government of India's attempt to stem domestic inflation by placing restrictions on export of some goods has also affected. Some goods are not being imported by others, and the others, the government of India in the height of its exuberance said, well, let the things not be exported, because if they remain in the country, then there will be more supply and prices will come down. What is Niti Aayog doing? Does this happen ever? You are cutting your nose to spite your face. You know that in 1 month alone, in September, the trade deficit was $25.7 billion. And this deficit increased in 1 month by 14.4%. This was announced by the government itself, by the Minister of Commerce and Industry on 14th of October. I was keeping a track of what the hell is happening. In 1 month, you lose $25.7 billion and you say we are okay. Then, September merchandise exports rose 4.8% year-on-year basis, and the total was 35.5 billion. That shows the continued weakness of the global demand. Now what's happening? Imports are having a growth of 8.7%. Exports have fallen 14.4%. Imports have increased by 8.7%. Now the import is $61.16 billion. So in the same month, your export is 25.7 billion. Import is 61.16 billion. More than double. What a challenge it is. And the increase in imports in September has slowed, coming from the strong double-digit growth since April, as commodity prices started coming off in the global recession and the strengthening of the US dollar. So all around, now look at April to September period this year, first 6 months of the current fiscal year of India. The trade deficit nearly doubled. Last year, the trade deficit was $76.3 billion. This year is $148.5 billion. And the total merchandise export for the period last year was 17.0% increase. And the total increase is $231 billion. But the imports have increased. Now look at the increase. Exports have increased by $231 billion, $231.88 billion to be more precise. And imports have increased 38%, and they are at $380.34 billion. So your exports go by 17%, imports go by 36%. The value of exports is 231 billion. The value of imports is 380 billion. I think any primary class student, a school student, will be able to tell you this is a challenge. And that challenge is not being faced squarely in the face. That is the total merchant. Look at the exports of the petroleum and the products. In September, the exports of the petroleum products from the refineries rose by 43%, and total export was 7 billion. But organic and inorganic shipments showed a growth of only 3%, of 2.44 billion. Then shipment of drugs and pharmaceuticals, which is a major export, increased only by 6% and is 2.19%, and man-made fabrics and the yarn declined by 12%. So 6% increase in one side, 12% decrease on the other. And then the plastic exports fell by 12%. Where are we? Then import of the crude shipments and the products shrunk to 15.9 billion. 30% of the imports surged, as I said, 48%, and the total cost increased by 1.80 billion. While the imports of the organic can also increased to 2.49 billion. So look at the imports. They are stunning. And the import of artificial resins and plastics increased to 1.8 billion. So despite this year's projected growth of 7% in the Indian economy, that was the Finance Minister Sitaraman said, and she admitted that we are concerned over the global economic outlook and geopolitical environment. Be concerned with the Indian economic outlook. The World Trade Organization has estimated global trade growth to 1%. It was 3.5% this year. So next year is going to be 1%. And if it's 1%, Indian share will reduce still further. The trade deficit is growing across the board, undoubtedly, but it's growing more in the case of India. And if you look at it, the kind of imports that are happening are essential, agreed. And the government expects that the Indian exports would touch 470 billion this year, which is nothing if you look at the total imbalance in the trade. Then the dollar rate is 82.85 rupees per dollar. That is 8% shedding in the foreign exchange. So you pay more for the exports. And the domestic data shows a weakening trend as well. It's not only the export market. Retail inflation in September touched a 5-month high of 7.4%. And that's wholesale. And the retail would be about 28%. Spike in the food jumped as high as 8.6%. No, 8.6% the wholesale market. And you know the difference between the wholesale market and what the consumer pays is unimaginably high. Separately, India's index of industrial production has reduced by 8%, and in 17 months it is reducing every day. We say we are going to be the industrial giant, and your industrial production is increasing every month for the last 17 months. And you say that you'll be great economy? Yes, maybe. But at what cost? If your trade deficit is not met, if the trade challenges are not taken care of, India is in for trouble. And I hope Niti Ayog, and I hope that the Finance Ministry wakes up to the situation and takes immediately corrective measures. I hope so. Let's see. Thank you.